Hello, everybody. Glad you could join us for the end of the week. There we go. I've in my inevitability to try to make the best possible audio output. I rearranged my desktop because it was kind of filthy. So, um, welcome to Friday. Uh, Hope everybody had a chance to come in and check us out at CSEC East, our virtual meetup. I think James discussing how VPNs over promise and under deliver was eye opening. It was a very good discussion, I think, on what is what you hear from places like NordVPN, which is very common. They like to advertise on a lot of streamers, so I do apologize if you've seen a NordVPN commercial on our and any. I don't know if we have ads, but if you've seen any ads that we have on there, remember that VPNs are only as good as the configurations they're used to set up. So and there have been numerous instances of it's not just the privacy of your ISP, but the VPNs themselves are companies that have to store logs, or unless they specifically and explicitly say logs won't be stored, you run the risk of being found elsewhere. Your own logs will notice that there's certain endpoints. If your ISP is following that stuff, they'll see IP addresses going to various endpoints like a NordVPN or what have you, and then the law enforcement just follow the trail, right? They know where to go for additional information. So if anybody's noticed a drop in resolution, I do apologize for that. I did try streaming at 1080p. Unfortunately, I don't think I live outside 30 minutes outside of Seattle, so obviously it's very rural and suburban. But I don't believe I can support 1080p at this time. So maybe when we move to San Diego and I get, I figured out how to get, gig speed fiber to the house, gig up, gig down, then I'll be able to do more 1080p related items. But I think our stream has been a bit on the janky side once I moved it to 1080p. So I do hope that the 4x less requirement for bandwidth will make things a little more stable. So, I'd like to thank IA Prof, DCY or DP Cybuck. So that's Dave Cybuck. He's one of the organizers of B-Sides Huntsville. Also one of our moderators on our Slack, IP76 and Half Tomeo, for following us. Appreciate that. X2B1C and BU Greedo. Okay. I love all the names because it's a nightmare for me to pronounce. And that's on me. So Greaser1, MC25, KH Will, and then Blue Knight 303. Okay, so that's all the folks that have followed us in the last 2 days. So yeah, so we have some news, and I'm also going to get to some Hack the Box stuff. This weekend is also, we're going to be trying to go through some more of the Chioptrix series of VMs, vulnerable VMs for OSCP-related taskings. I also need to get with my mentee and see what time he wants to meet this weekend, so that we can continue with him educating folks as well. So it may be due to our complex times. I may just figure out how to set him up with streams, and then we'll let it happen. And if I'm involved, then I'll be involved. But otherwise, we'll make it happen. So so there's some news. I'm actually refreshing my page wildly, hoping that there isn't another breach. So let me go check my Feedly real quick here. Google Ruse, banking hardware, okay, from Play Store. I haven't seen anything else. I haven't seen anything on Twitter either, so hopefully we won't, Microsoft sinkholes of Russian hacking groups, domains targeting Ukraine. So yeah, so there's some interesting stories. So this is one that has always bothered me about the cryptocurrency industry, because it is an industry, like it or not. There are games out there, that apparently it was a blockchain-based mobile game called Wonder Hero, and it was suspending all services after the price of its tokens crashed dramatically. A hacker was able to mint the game's token and cash out for around $300,000. So the company sent out an official announcement saying there was an attack on their cross-chain bridging withdrawal. That sounds a lot like market speak, but maybe we can go and search for what that means to folks. Hey, YTT Retro, what's the breach? Is there anything that I haven't known about? I've been following diligently. I guess I could go check out the Twitters, but let me go see. There we go. I haven't seen anything, so yeah, let me know. Oh, just cheering them on. Oh, okay. So you're our breach them up real good, or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, so I guess this is not a good thing. This happened today, April 7th. No, yesterday. Okay. So cryptocurrency-based game, Wonder Heroes, apparently just drives up our earning potential. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. We've seen this with exchanges where, somebody has decided they just want to, close up shop and take all their cryptocurrencies with them because everybody has their crypto stored in one place. And unfortunately, it's probably all in the bank account of the person running the exchange. And then that person cashes out and is sipping Mai Tais on a beach somewhere with your fake currency at, $16, $17 million or what have you. That's kind of what happened here. So there was an attack on our cross-chain bridging withdrawal. It sounds like so much market speak. What is cross-chain bridging withdrawal? Okay, so all right. So here's the actual article. With key considerations of safety and security, conducted an inspection of the ecosystem and identified numerous affected areas concerning the bridge. While the game's assets on Polygon remain safe, our investigation continues to provide more updates in this newsletter. So it will resume on 9 April. Okay, so it's going to resume tomorrow. So they haven't been taken offline completely. Players can continue to earn WND, HON, and NFT assets. However, deposit and withdrawals in and out of game will be disabled until further notice. Okay. Players can continue. I have no idea what this game is about. It seems like there's some fighting or something like that. I don't know. It reminds me of, back in old timey days, Tekken and all that stuff. I don't know. Some PvP related items. The article posted BNB chain. They got 80 million WND on the chain and traded through PancakeSwap for a total of 750 BNBs, resulting in the sudden drop of the WND price. Okay. Seems like you've got developers creating things for blockchains and not securing the devices. They're still investigating, it looks like. Maybe the WND stuff, they were able to gain access to people's wallets through the game itself, some kind of injection where they are able to assume that person's wallet. Could it be any number of things? Maybe we'll find out some more about this. I think it's interesting, the play to earn mobile game. I mean, if you're trying to earn, NFTs or, cryptocurrency without, having to pay exorbitant amounts of money, I guess that's one way to do it. It kind of bugs me, but, it's not the first time we've seen somebody just decide to, drop off the face of the earth with $300,000 worth of cash. So, yeah. I still didn't find out what cross-bridging something withdrawal somethings. Cross-chain bridge to end all bridges. Okay, great. Cross-chain bridges, not without their faults, fees, vulnerabilities, delays. Oh, there you go. Vulnerabilities, delays, exploits, and more. While bridges exist as separate entities, no bridges have been integrated into trading platforms until now. Okay, well, I'm done here. So I don't advertise for any of these companies. I don't recommend them. Unless you're highly speculative trading and market conditions being what they are. So they said we'll give an update. They're suspending game services. Did they add an update down here at the bottom? No, they did not. So, oh wow, Motherboard reached admins on the Discord channel for comment and quickly received a ban. Wow. Okay, that's not very nice. That's not positive communications. That's really interesting. Okay, so Motherboard goes up in the Discord channel, asks about the breach, and immediately we're banned. So that doesn't. Yeah, that's not good communication. If you're suffering a breach, you need to find somebody to do your breach communications. Hey Queen, what's up? Thank you for hanging out with me on Friday. YTT Retro's here too. We're just doing a little bit of news because I really haven't done any news all week. So other than CSEC East on Wednesday. So we're talking about some cryptocurrency people that got owned. $300,000 was stolen, borrowed, cashed out, whatever. So somebody got rich to the tune of 300K. So hopefully the Wonder Heroes folks will have figured out their issues and have fixed it accordingly. So, hey Queen, any wins? Any wins for you this week? Did you do anything you're proud of you want to share with us? Anyway, hey Angel, how you doing? Glad you could hang out. We're doing a little bit of news before we do the Hack the Box stuff because it's Friday and I'm expecting some breaches. YTT Retro is looking for a breach. She's being cheerleader right now. Hey, breach. I read this story today. I thought it was kind of interesting. Well, my week it could have been better, but hey Kevlar, how you doing? Glad you can make it. We're just talking about our week and how everything went and what wins we have. I'd like my week to have gone a little better. I'm hoping that after the 18th I'll be able to take a personal day or something. But right now, as it stands, I don't have the time to take a day off. Because what I'd love to do is take a personal day off and just spend 8 hours on here streaming. I hear that that's a cool way of doing things with people. So maybe we can, sit down and play some games or, just hang out and talk security, get some people on and talking about stuff. And I don't want to do it on a Friday because I don't like taking personal days on Fridays because it's Friday's like the easy day. Everybody does it. So do it on a Monday, where it's I don't want to go back to work. Oh, I don't have to. It's a Monday. So, anywho, this is interesting. So, and I know that Tinkers like Ms. YTT Retro might be interested in hearing about this too. This is not the first group, Samsung and Google in this case, with a self-repair program. Down at the bottom of the doc, they mentioned Microsoft and Valve are also working with iFixit, and Apple has also talked about a self-service repair program. Oh, Queen, I can understand. Yeah. School and work. Having worked full-time and gone to school full-time, yeah, it's not fun. Of course, I was doing University of Phoenix back in 2005 to 2008. So, working a 40-hour week or better, and doing school. Yeah, my hat's off to you. It takes a lot. It takes a lot. So. Google is working with iFixit to offer spare parts for its devices. So, just recently with the Pixel 5, I think, they are allowing for security updates for 5 years. The 6, which I have, the 6 Pro, is going to get security updates for 5 years, which is great. Of course, the battery may not last that long. And once your battery goes dead, what are your options? You're going to trade it in, and they're going to fix it there. Or, if you had it, had an old phone, you could actually replace the battery back in the day. which I loved because you could do things like get aftermarket parts. You could get larger battery packs, put graphene OS. You know what? YTT, I used to run custom ROMs on my systems. Matter of fact, I would buy phones specifically for how easy it was to root them and put stuff on them. I ran into a lot of issues later on with other phones. Like I had an LG G6, I think, and an LG G7. They were both really good. Um, the quality of the ROMs back in that day, and I don't know if it's gotten any better, but the quality of the ROMs were not ready for prime time. I had a lot of problems with them, and it came to the point where I got too old to have to deal with that shit. At one time I was definitely in on that. I used Tibu titanium backup for great measure. And then, well, I guess the other nail in the coffin was things that would take advantage of rooting protections, like if you're on Android or Samsung, they have anti-rooting protections, and applications are starting to look to see if your apps have been rooted. Then you have to remember to install Magisk and set up other things, and then it just became like what do they call that, a battle back and forth, where you're like, well, okay, I'm installing this version of Magisk, and that gets around it, and then they're like, oh well, we just updated our application and now it's gonna look for this version. It was a pain in the ass. And Pokemon Go was the one that kind of made me not use rooted apps. I know. I'll take your ire. It's fine. But so what I like about this is, if you have a phone and you like it, and the battery starts expanding and you're like, oh no, I need a new phone. What stops you from, getting updates to your phones? It's usually either you notice that your battery's not as good as it used to be, or, maybe you've cracked the screen and it's like, I can't pay the insurance for this, or, maybe you're just somebody who likes to replace it every week. Some people just like to hold on to the phone that they have and they don't want to upgrade. And now that you've gone to 5G and it's brand new, it's going to be around for a little while. This also cuts down, I would imagine, on electronic waste that I know a lot of companies are looking at getting rid of. I would think, if you can just sell the parts, you've got people who are willing to repair their own phones, and there's obviously a legal requirement there. Like if you decide to replace your phone, you may void your warranty, or we can't guarantee that the repairs you're going to make are going to fix your phone. There's a gamble there. But some folks, they've got their spudgers, and they've got these little blue things over here that I've used on systems to wedge the plastic up underneath. And I mean, I have an Apple repair kit that I've got that I used to use on a couple devices. It's great. I mean, if you can fix your own stuff, then that also cuts down on the costs for Google and Samsung to the cost of shipping your device, the cost of shipping you a new device, hiring their own people to do so. If you feel like you're comfortable enough to fix those, it's great. So if you have a Samsung all the way back to the 2020 Galaxy S20, you could potentially repair it. Easy repairs are essential if Google wants customers to use devices for as long as it's planning to support them. Right. Pixel 6 is promising 3 years of Android updates and 5 years of security updates, which could see the phones being used into 2026. That's right. At that point, it's all but guaranteed the phone will need a new battery or some kind of repair at least once in its lifetime, which makes access to spare parts vital. That's right. That's right. Yep. You can get fix kits. That'll be nice. I mean, it really depends on how much the battery is going to cost. I mean, you can get these really ugly cases that will fit on these things, and it's just a USB-C connector into the bottom, and it's got a case on the back of this thing. It gets real janky and big. But, if you can replace the battery with an original, then, all the better for it. Google has partnerships with repair shops. You can also trade in and recycle when you no longer want to use the device. That's what's going to get you every time, because every time the Pixel 7 comes out, I replaced my Pixel 5 with the Pixel 6 Pro. they gave me like $3.99 off, you know? And so if I keep this Pixel 6 until 2026, how much is it actually going to, you know, how much trade-in value am I going to get for an 8-year-old phone? Probably nothing. So, you know, there's legislation around the world about right to repair that is starting to gain traction. What is this? Okay, Apple iPhones have been sued by the FTC. Right to repair resolution, EU Commission. Okay, so the interesting thing is the first time I heard of right to repair was, I think, in a Tech Dirt article a while ago, where farmers who have John Deere tractors, you know, farmers, like, you know, grows vegetables and shit. The tractors have become so technologically advanced that they've actually put DRM in their firmware on the microcontrollers and the processors and the things that runs in the tractor itself. And the farmers can't fix their own tractors if they break down. So, you know, now the tractors, you know, farmers have either gotten smarter by just renting the tractors from a company to, you know, be able to, you know, run them instead of owning their own. But there's whole forums out there on tractor firmwares that you can use that have been cracked or allows you to do updates. Let me see. John Deere tractor firmware. Oh yeah, see, there's tons of stuff. Why are American farmers? Yeah, this one is, yeah, this story is over 5 years old. So yeah, this is when I first heard about it. Diving into the thriving black market of John Deere tractor hacking. And there's a YouTube video about it. But, you know, it's interesting that, you know, it's only starting to become a big deal when people are worried about. Okay, so YTT is probably is most likely correct there, that some of these are sketchy Russian joints. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, the license agreement John Deere required farmers to sign forbids nearly all repair and modification to farm equipment, prevents farmers from suing for crop loss. This is awful. This is right here. I mean, if your tractor breaks and they can't fix it for you in a certain amount of time, and you know, you're trying to do haying or something in the fall, and you know, it starts raining and you lose half your crop, and of course your farm at that point, because you're incumbent on, you know, making a profit from that hay or what have you. You can't sue John Deere because your tractor broke down. That's shitty. So, but yeah, there's, you know, and I would imagine this is some kind of diagnostic application, very similar to like ODBC, like you'd put in a car and use. But yeah. Yeah. The other one was the more famouser one was the McDonald's Frosty machine. Yeah, ice cream hackers are suing for $900 million. Yeah, because the startup created a way to fix the broken ice cream machines, and the company is decided to sue the group that fixes or has figured out how to fix the ice cream machines. Yeah. Intercept ice cream machines' internal comms and send them to a website to help owners remotely monitor and troubleshoot the many foibles, because apparently the machine that McDonald's has licensed is complete shite. So they created this little device to help out with that. So, I mean, it's very multifaceted here. I mean, and it's not just cell phones. I think that's the important thing to mention, that this right to repair thing affects any complex piece of machinery, or even cars. I mean, I can't do much to my Tesla without voiding the warranty on it. I mean, I can rotate the tires and change the wiper fluid. You know, if I put custom firmware on it, I think I had a friend of mine, he even come on now. What? So YTT says even chainsaws and larger weed whackers are limited repair DRM engine management system. Come on now. I mean, I guess I understand, because they're all using, you know, batteries and stuff, you know, now, so they're more electronic than they used to be. But wow, I can't imagine. I mean, that's just another form of lock-in, right? Oh, no gas in? Really? I guess the microcontrollers managing things like throttle and you know spark plug, spark plug timings and stuff. Yeah, I can. Wow, that that is telling. I was not aware of that. So, but yeah, the shake machine or the frosty machine was another one that I think everybody noticed. This came out on yeah. So Golden Arches crushed its business and left soft serve customers out in the cold. I don't eat soft serve from McDonald's anymore. I mean, when I would have super unhealthy stuff, it would always be either McDonald's or I'd go to Wendy's for Frosty. But I don't want to know what's in a Frosty. I know there's probably not a lot of milk in there, but yeah. So the bottom line is that more companies are starting to come on with the self repair programs. I think probably some of it is motivated by they don't want to get sued, kind of like how Apple got sued. So FTC is pledging to fight unlawful right repair restrictions. So that's coming. That's almost a year old, but it is coming. It's just taking time. So. All right, so I I had to click on this link because I was like, Mandiant and CrowdStrike are actually joining forces. I'm not sure why. So they're partnering to stop and defend against breaches. So they're collaborating with one another. They have embraced an open and collaborative approach to working with partners and technologies to provide organizations mission-critical protection. To this mission today, Mandiant and this is Mandiant's website. So it's almost like when you're watching football and then they start talking about football matches that are going to be on different channels. Back in the day, it was like CBS and Fox didn't know each other existed when football was on. And so it's like you never have seen Mandiant mention this on their own site, but there you go. Through this strategic alliance, Mutual, Mandiant, and CrowdStrike customers will be able to maximize their investments with both companies as partners through enhanced consulting services. Wow. I wonder how this is going to work now that Mandiant has been bought by Google. This came out yesterday, so this is not like this is an old article. So I wonder if this is. I mean, I would be interested in seeing what this relationship is going to look like yeah, exactly, Angel. I'm with Mandiant becoming Google Mandiant, or maybe they're going to keep the Mandiant name and what have you. I would imagine they're going to have to change it because it's named, I believe, after the CEO at the time, Kevin Mandia. So it might. I mean, he's no John McAfee, but they may decide they want to change the name or add Google to it. But yeah, it's interesting. So if you are a Mandiant and a CrowdStrike customer together, you might want to take a look. So it says Mandiant also supports CrowdStrike Falcon via Mandiant Advantage modules for security validation and automated defense. And the Mandiant Managed Defense offering intends to include support for customers leveraging the Falcon platform later this year. Wow, that's going to leave Carbon Black and Cylance out the door there. So that's definitely going to be interesting. So you don't see companies like this working together. So So Angel says, don't know if Google and Mandiant may be the best path, but things change, right? Hey Scott, I wonder if this is. Did you just call them Goondians? Okay. Goon. Okay. I wonder if this is Goondians' attempt to create a vendor neutral group. In what way, Scott? What are you talking about? Googiant, maybe? I don't know. What vendor neutral in what way? In terms of like protections? Because I mean, it feels like it's obvious that Google bought Mandiant to contend with Microsoft's, Defender options. At one time, Microsoft wanted to buy Mandiant. So, Microsoft was seeing some reason to, expand their offerings with Mandiant. Somebody on our Slack channel had mentioned, hey, what happens if CrowdStrike was bought by, Microsoft? And I was like, well, Mandiant's trading at about $22 a share. When I replied today, CrowdStrike was at like $215 a share. So if Mandiant was bought by Google for $5.4 billion, CrowdStrike would be roughly 56 billion if you keep the 10x kind of valuation. I don't think somebody is going to want to buy CrowdStrike for $55 billion. I mean, that's just assuming 10x increase in price. So CrowdStrike, I might be worth more than that, but you're gonna have to give investors something. So $215 a share, do the math. It's gonna get pricey real quick. So yeah, if anybody's using this, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on what this is going to work for you. So I actually thought CrowdStrike and Mandiant kind of overlapped more than they did, but I guess I'm wrong. It'd be nice if maybe their logging or their IOCs or something were kind of matched up. I do know they do like to do a lot of naming of adversaries, so they may be sharing threat intelligence platforms, or it might be like a Chrome and Edge thing where their plugins will be, mutually, compatible with one another. So maybe if you're a CrowdStrike customer, you could use some Mandiant plugins or vice versa. This one's kind of near and dear to my heart. Bruce Schneier, take him for what he is. It's a grain of salt usually. Apparently AirTags have been in the news. Well, not apparently, but AirTags have been in the news, talking about stalking, being used for stalking because they're a small form factor. So it makes hiding them easy. Some people find them up underneath car wheel welds. I think one story had mentioned that they found the AirTag behind a license plate. Somebody found one in their purse, etc. So it's really becoming interesting for these smaller form factors like AirTags to need to broadcast themselves or to make themselves known that you are within range of one that has not been with its owner or something like that, like it's a lost puppy. So. They said Motherboard, of course. Motherboard says 8-month period from dozens of largest police departments. They obtained records from 8. So wait, what? They said they requested records from dozens of the largest police departments. They've obtained records from 8. So they asked more than 12 or more than 24, and they got them from 8. So they had 150 police reports about AirTags, 50 cases where women called the police because they started getting notifications on whereabouts being tracked by an AirTag they didn't own. 25 of those people could identify a man in their lives, man or woman in this case. I mean, we're just assuming heterosexual here, but 25 of those could identify a man, ex-partners, husbands, bosses even. Oh, shit, that's not good. That's not good. Oh, sorry, Scott. An alliance of sorts for information sharing and mutual support. Okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, threat intelligence and what have you. Yeah, that makes sense. Who they strongly suspected planted the AirTags on their cars in order to follow and harass them. Those women reported that current and former intimate partners, most likely people to harm women overall, are using AirTags to stalk and harass them. Right. Okay. Yes, that is a real issue. It's not just AirTags that are being used for this. I mean, there are a ton of things out there. It's interesting though. I've seen a couple of people on Twitter say, hey, these are being used for stalking, but what happens if you turn off, what happens if you're using this to, notice for, I'll have to check that out later. If you're using it to, find out if something's been stolen, let's say you put one and hide it up underneath your bike seat, for instance, and if it gets stolen, it's going to notify you that, hey, your bike is moving, and if your ass is not on it, then maybe that's a problem. Or I've actually seen people use cell phones for this, but if you're trying to track a package across the country and you put an AirTag inside a package, let's say you've had a history of your devices not being, or your packages not being delivered, your AirTags can help you with that. Well, in the same way that you're not, you're stalking your package, these can also be used for nefarious purposes. So AirGuard is a good open source tag detector. Yeah, I've seen that one. That one's not bad. So the issue with this is there's a real big thing here. I mean, there are a lot of IoT devices out there that do various things. A lot of them use Bluetooth. A lot of them, aren't detectable. I mean, up until recently, if you had an AirTag in your car and you had an Android device, you could not know that an AirTag existed. So there's a real problem there. So one, you have to know you're being tracked or stalked. Two, depending on the ecosystem that the system runs in, whether it be an AirTag, whether it be any other things, you have to know what you're being tracked with. The other thing is you have to potentially download an app onto your phone, or what if you're anti-technology? How are you going to know whether or not you're being tracked if you don't have a phone? Maybe you left your phone at home. Maybe that's a perfect time for the stalker to be noticing you. It's a real issue. I mean, if you're having to install AirGuard every time you want to go to the club and know if there's an AirTag, hitting you, then you have to know and be, I wouldn't say paranoid enough, but you'd have to have enough cause to want to download AirGuard and do a check every time. Same for, what's another device that could be potentially used? Let's see. Anyway, so it doesn't really matter the company. It runs as a background service. Okay. But it only finds tiles, right? It only finds tiles on Android or what have you, right? Y2T. Let's say your stalker doesn't use tile, or not tiles, but I guess tile's another one. Any BT tag. Well, how does it know what BT tag it is? So this one says this one detects tile trackers, works in manual scan and with background alerts. What? Sorry for 1 through is causing this. Okay. It works with AirTags and other Find My devices. Okay, so there's a lot of complexity here with regards to this. One, you have to know that you're being stalked. Two, you have to have this application on your machine, on your device, whether it be an iPhone or an Android device. And two, it has to be running for you to notice. And let's say you live in an apartment building. How do you know which tags are yours? If you're detecting something 10 foot up, or it's not just, there's a lot of problems with detecting lost devices or being stalked or what have you. Some people may have, key finder little tile things for keys, like on their keys. I don't have keys anymore, but if I had keys and I had one of those tiles on there, if I'm near somebody and they run AirGuard, are they going to see that as being lost or not? It really is kind of a pain in the ass. And there are a lot of organizations working with domestic violence and anti-stalker groups to, add things like potentially tones, or if you're outside of, the range, if you've registered it with your phone and you're 45 feet away from that phone, outside of Bluetooth range, it might be worth the effort to, it might send out a message, hey, I'm lost. Sorry, I'm. Oh, okay. I need to. It is Friday, so let me see here. Anyway, so yeah, it has to change locations at least 3 times in the same location you are. There are, of course, false positives. You can lock out known tags. That's good. The other thing is, a lot of times stalkers are, a lot of times stalkers, you don't find out about the tag until you're at your home, which if somebody's following you from the club or from a venue or an event, they've just figured out where you live, so it's automatically game over. You could find the tile, or you can find the air tag, or you could find the whatever it is that they're using. The reason I mentioned tile, I think somebody, the further down you get on some of these comments on Schneier's blog, the I wouldn't say crazier, but the yeah. See, I mean, some of these things are good. I mean, they're using device trackers to track stolen goods from Russia. I think at one point down here, you've got somebody talking about how the 5G is going to, cause them to have brain cancers or something. But yeah, so okay. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and part of the battle is finding it in enough time once you've left the venue or what have you, so that it will warn you before you actually pull into your driveway, and then the game is over, because now you're dealing with somebody who actually knows where you live now. And like YTT said, there are tons of false positives. It's very complicated where this won't work everywhere, or be effective everywhere. And yeah, I mean, this comes back to, you're using it for good, but it can be very, very evil real quick, and without much without much action on anybody's part. So I think somebody had mentioned, yeah, this doesn't end the stalking issue. This just makes it easier for people to stalk folks. I mean, if you know somebody's name, or know where they live, or what their name is, OSINT, and people doing OSINT on people on the internet, you can pretty much find where they live if they own a house or property or whatever. So some of these things are, air tags were designed for theft, left behind, or mislaid. I had been reading some RFCs recently that there are Bluetooth beacons in the Bluetooth specifications that can allow for notifications of emergency beacons being like, I'm lost, or this is a lost device. Anyway, so it's just something I've been doing a lot of research on recently. Not sure I'll give a talk on it, but it is something of note that people. It is very complicated, and just saying, oh, you can't put on a speaker or something. It's like you're talking about a thing that's this thin and this wide or something. It's like, how large and loud can you make speakers on those things? I mean, there's just a ton of junk, and if you put it behind a license plate, how are you going to find it? Especially if you're driving, or you've put it on the outside of somebody's car. So there's a ton of stuff talking about those things. I think we talked about some of this. Yeah. 20 people per minute are physically abused by a partner. There's a lot of violence being involved, being stalked by a partner. 1 in 7 women and 1 in 18 men have been stalked by a partner in their lifetime. There's a lot of issues there. So it'd be nice if we could fix the problem where people aren't being stalked, but technology is only getting to the point where it makes things more useful. So this is UK cybersecurity leaders, but this is interesting. This came out today. From Vector AI, revealed half of cybersecurity leaders in the UK are considering leaving their jobs. 200 security chiefs in the UK, they polled them. The emergent industry health crisis. I've never seen the industry being considered a health crisis. 2 out of 5 security leaders have been forced to seek help as a result of work-related stress, including panic attacks, high blood pressure, and panic attacks. He said the same thing twice. I think maybe they meant something else there. 51% experienced negative emotions such as depression, anger, and anxiety. Anger and anxiety. Anger is something I see on a weekly basis just for myself. The depression and anxiety has only started happening within the last, I would say, 2 years, and I think some of that is for me was probably part of the pandemic, but I think it's probably I'm just tired of seeing the same shit over and over again, and hoping that it'll get better. 67% of respondents felt they don't have the talent they need on their team. 17% even claiming each team member is doing the workload of 3. Yeah, that is a true statement. Yeah. Some of that, and I hate to victim blame here, but some of that is poor hiring practices. If you look at a job description and you don't feel qualified to do that job, are you going to apply for that job? You may be talented. You may be, I think some of this is cultural, where we assume that everybody we hire is going to be able to get started immediately running on positions. And I think part of the problem that we have with hiring people is the culture where we assume that everybody knows what they're doing starting out, and we're looking for those people instead of trying to train up people and creating, I don't know what amounts to loyalty, but understanding that some people come in, they don't have all the skills, and it's important to make sure that they get those skills. And yeah, I mean, YTT, let me ask you a question. You're the most senior, awesome person I know. When you advertise for a position that is junior, and if you don't, I apologize, but if you advertise for a job that is junior, are you expecting a junior person? What does that look like for you when you're, because I see a lot of junior positions, but I think I saw a meme the other day. It's like, how do you get 3 to 5 years of security experience as a junior person when you don't have 3 to 5 years of experience? And everybody's like, well, you could do internships, or, you can volunteer for things. And I'm like, that don't pay the bills, unless it's a paid internship. Volunteering is great. It don't pay the bills. That's perfect. That's an excellent example. I don't put years of experience for junior. That's awesome. Yeah. I think the other thing is maybe for junior personnel stuff, you don't put like the need for certs, the need for experience. This is one of those things that we being the BreakSec, family here have talked about for a lot. YTT Retro, I know you don't care about certs. I appreciate that. But there are a lot of folks that, unfortunately have to have certs because they feel like it's the only way they're going to get through that HR screen. But I do understand in terms of hiring, you don't care about certs. I do appreciate that. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, a lot of these companies don't do things to help themselves. It's like that's an excellent point on Hell. Willing to learn and being motivated comes a long way. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I do see people that are like, I've asked questions in interviews. It's like, what drove you to InfoSec? What is your passions? What do you do in your off time? Because, I was of the opinion, because that's the way I was. When I wasn't working, I was learning about InfoSec. Part of the podcast is from, hey, I do security all day, but I want to educate people on things. And there's a group of people out there on Twitter that are like, look, I just want to make money and pay bills, and I don't really, it's not really a passion, it's just a job, which is fair enough. But there's a lot of companies out there that don't do hiring hygiene in this case, where it's like, when was the last time you reviewed your job descriptions? Do they still make sense? If you have to, and I've said this before, if you have to tell people, oh yeah, don't worry about that. I've never seen that happen. It's not a legitimate part of the workday. If you're asking for a Windows administrator and, you're, looking for 5 years of Unix experience, then, you're not doing yourselves a service by asking for Unix experience for a Windows admin. So yeah, Let me see. I'd say the 67% of respondents, I think one of the things that they should look at is what the job descriptions say and be willing to train people and know that it's, a bit of an uphill battle to, if you're looking for a junior person or, looking for talent on your team, you have to have a reason for them to want to come and work with you. Maybe you have a bad reputation in the industry. Might be worth it to go check out Glassdoor and see what your previous employees think about you. Also, maybe be a little more flexible about, having an ass in a seat or not. I wonder how many of the 67% work at what is a traditional organization where it was like, oh yeah, we'll work remotely until the pandemic is over and then we're going to go right back to seats. A lot of employees don't want to, move back to population centers because they got nice and comfortable, not, having to commute for 2 hours a day. So, it is what it is. Just to see who's lurking. Oreo Bite, hey, Go Pro Slow Yo, hello. Yeah, we love marbles. Welcome. So yeah, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate that. If y'all have any thoughts about any of the stuff we've been talking about, please feel free to include them. Not the only way. I hire a lot of fresh out of the military. They're already vetted. Right. Well, see, Y2T, that's excellent. Fresh out of the military, they already have an issue, with, I don't know how TAP or transition programs are now with the military, but I remember spending all day writing up a resume that was complete shit, and being told that was, a good job for law enforcement or, being pushed in specific industries because of our military experience makes it easy. And I was one of the few people who had IT experience and not law enforcement experience. So I do appreciate you, helping hire military folks who are not necessarily, gated for law enforcement. So. Let me see. I saw this. So somebody said Patch Tuesday is in the air. It's coming out next. Let me see. Double check. Next week, right? Yeah, next week, the 12th. They mentioned Auto Patch in here, which if so, Auto Patch. Try. Windows and Microsoft are aiming to make Patch Tuesday just another Tuesday for enterprises, and this is coming out for Windows 10 and 11 E3 customers and above. It will manage all software, firmware, driver, and enterprise updates. They're putting a ring format in, so very much like you do if you have Windows 11 on your personal box. It has like insider rings, beta rings, dev rings, etc. So what they're doing is they're allowing you in your organization to, they mention 4 rings here, but they only call out 3. So I'm not exactly sure where the other rings are. They say there's a test ring. So they have roughly 1% of managed devices. They have a fast ring containing 9% and the broad ring. So the idea is you roll them out incrementally. So you have 1% of your devices, hopefully your security and your IT people, or some people who are okay with signing up and being a guinea pig for early updates, and then you have your faster ring, so you'll have a greater number of folks, and then you've all the fixes have been worked out and there's no major issues, so then you can push it to the broad ring, which is the rest of your organization. I found this quite interesting. So they have from test to broad after validation periods. The service will also monitor device performance with pre-update metrics to balance speed, efficiency, and optimize productivity. So I'm not sure what the 4th ring was. If they have a halt feature, maybe the 4th ring is maybe some kind of, I don't want this being rolled out to this device at all, ever. So it could be one of those things. But they say the auto patch comes with a halt, where updates will not move from ring to ring unless targets are met. There's also a rollback feature and a selectivity feature, which allows customers to select only portions of the update package to be deployed, which is kind of cool. Apparently this is going to come out in July of this year. I know that that's going to. We tried using IT as our deployment guinea pig. When all your hard IT machines self-destruct, it's really hard to fix the daily operations. Don't use IT. Okay, that is a fair statement. YTT. I would say you'd probably want to find. Maybe you'd want to distribute it across the network, so you'd have a couple, one or two people in sales, a couple people in, IT. Yeah, it does have a rollback feature, so I don't know how effective the rollback feature would be. Maybe it takes what do they call those things? A milestone, not a milestone, restore point on Windows. And then if your fix doesn't work, then you can roll back to the previous one. But yeah, I guess it would be nice. For some organizations to fix that. IT is tricksy. Yeah, they're the least to complain, easiest to ignore, but tend to make terrible test populations. That's true. That's true, Scott. I do see that is that could be a thing. And if IT is borked because of a recent update, and then everybody else is trying to hit you up to get work done or help desk tickets to be processed or SLAs in place, you could run into some issues. So yeah, maybe IT is not the best for early rollout. Maybe you do want to have, a couple of those, those folks who want to, have the beta stuff. Somebody who's in the beta ring or whatever get pushed out. That would make the most sense. So, right. Yeah, and YTT is actually correct, yeah. Oh, God, yeah, that would suck if, you're doing an incident response and all your IT boxes are the ones that are borked. So, features will not move from... Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where the fourth ring is. I don't... Maybe they have the fourth ring over here, but they only mentioned 3 rings in that article, so I'm not exactly sure. Auto patch feature. Okay, so the 4 deployment. Okay, so that makes more sense. So they have test, first, fast, and broad. Okay, so that makes sense. So they have 4 deployment rings. Minimum. Oh, all right. Maybe I missed that part somewhere. Let me see. These rings include. Okay. All right. So they have your early adopters. So you try it out on like 5 or 6 machines. No, YTT, no, don't be mean to the marketing people. They have their place. Anyway, so yeah, maybe you've got an early adopter, and I guess it really just depends on how big your org is. So, no, YTT, no. Don't be mean to the marketing people. Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. They've got that's okay, that's interesting. All right. So I'll put this over here. If you're an E3 customer, I'm not saying you should implement it. I'm sure they will give you the option to not implement it if you don't want it. But yeah, so no, Pat, no, Scott. That's business development. That's biz dev people, right? They get the bottle service and making it rain in the in the clubs and stuff. But yeah, so I mean, it seems like that they're trying to find a way to help with enterprise deployments and oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense. YTT, yeah. But yeah, so it sounds like that they're trying to do what is, what they can't. No, I do not wish to have a brief survey. Bite me. All right. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they're trying to reverse the ideas of the past where they're pushing out Patch Tuesday updates and having immediately exploit Wednesday where everybody's seeing the patches immediately and they're getting out there. If they can push these patches out more regularly, or getting away from the Patch Tuesday idea where it's like there is something bad happening, we need to do an out of band patch. I could definitely see them needing having this set up for that. The next, configure or the only reason I'm remembering configure was because it was in our OSCP thing, but getting away from people ramping up because Patch Tuesday is happening and expecting that seems to make more sense if you can take people off guard. So so it's kind of cool, but yeah, I guess if you have specific guidelines, or you definitely need to test this itself before it got pushed out. So let me see. Yeah. So some of the other things they mentioned, Scott, for a lot of folks, it's going to be seen as a positive. I think, Scott, I think you're right. For the longest time there, you were using WSUS, or you were using some kind of, automated patch process there. And, having Microsoft handle it instead of having a third party pushing those patches probably is a better idea. And it seems like they've actually taken some real ideas there to, not bork the system. I mean, ideally you want to roll them out incrementally. So that makes sense. The metrics and stuff that they're gathering to make sure that, that you can gather to make sure that your patches are safe, is only going to help reduce any kind of issues there. So, so they said security enhancements for Windows 11, credential guard, config lock, personal data protection, and hypervisor protected code integrity. Ooh, that sounds bingo. Okay. Microsoft also announced upcoming auto patch service. That's right. We talked about we just mentioned that. They have additional security enhancements for Windows 11. So that's pretty sweet. Oh, Pluton security processor. All right. Pluton, for those of you who don't know, and I can't tell you why I know. YTT, we use WSUS for Windows. The hard part is things like switches, printers, POS systems, right? That makes sense. Your POS systems are probably using what? The Windows POS, point of sale, for those of you not far. Not the other POS, but POS is point of sale. For the longest time, I had a Windows XP that I was using, and had hacked the registry, so I was still getting Windows updates because the point of sale XP version was still getting security updates, whereas Windows XP was not getting them. I think up until about 2017 or something, I had a copy of Windows XP that was still getting patches on a regular basis. Yeah, it's basically CE. Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, Pluton for Microsoft is a security chip for the future of PCs. So, trusted platform module for Windows, hardware component, securely store keys and measurements, identify the integrity of the system. It's a root of trust thing, right? So, they're probably trying to simplify things like authentication, authorization type things. Zero trust is a huge deal. So, trying to create a TPM that will allow you to do those things. Also expanding BitLocker and System Guard. So instead of storing your credentials inside of a 1Password, for instance, you may actually store them inside of the TPM on your system. Seems like you could do that. Yeah, see, Pluton will use Pluton security processor, protect credentials, user identities, encryption keys, and personal data. So, your next laptop from your workplace will have your VPN credentials inside the TPM chip, so you don't have to. You just log in, connect to Wi-Fi on your system. You'll authenticate. The VPN solution will be like, okay, I need to read your TPM chip. Ah, okay, you are who you say you are because there's a hard-coded TPM chip. Boom, done, mark it. So that's kind of an interesting concept there. So, oh yeah, here's a fancy doc or fancy diagram. So, Pluton security processor will talk directly to the clouds, separate from the CPU cores, and it looks like it's going to be system on chip. So that's kind of cool. Azure Sphere, yeah, okay, that's their IoT platform. that they have. Yeah, MCUs. Ed Nightingale. Not the name drop. I met him once. He's like on a whole different level thinking wise. So, but yeah, so that's interesting. Azure Spheres is one that you don't hear a lot about, but you know, what was it? Seven things I hate about you. No, 7 things about securing IoT. It was a white paper that he wrote. Let's see, where is it? Nightingale. Yeah, 7 properties of highly secure devices. This is a pretty interesting read. If you ever get bored, it reads quick. I mean, it's only 10 pages, but it reads really well, really quick. It's older, but it's still very much good if you're looking at, if you're doing IoT devices or you're worried about those things. My friend Crispin turned me on to this paper when we were looking at IoT stuff, talking about hardware root of trust, small trusted computing base, defense in depth compartmentalization, certificate based auth, renewable security. So these are things that Microsoft created a while ago, but there's other orgs like IOXT. What's that one org? That SESIP, SESIP. It's another organization dedicated to that. And then of course you have your ISO, not ISO, but NIST standards, talking about, standards and evaluation for IoT platforms. So there's a ton of stuff about, IoT security in place. So it's one of those things. It's like everybody's like, oh, IoT sucks. And then it's like, you got to go and read some of this stuff. There's so much out there on how to secure these best practices, things that you have to think about. And a lot of these IoT devices, small processors and, no, hardware stack. You got 64K of memory if you're lucky. I mean, there's a ton of stuff there that you have to think about. Yeah, you can put perfect security on it, but it will cost either so much or it will be completely unusable by people. And so you have to find that happy medium. If anything, it's taught me to be a bit more pragmatic after reading all this stuff to understand just the difficulties involved with, understanding SOCs and trying to find security in those places. And then not even the certification stuff, to get these IoT things certified, they're not making a lot of money on these devices. And if they have to spend $100,000 to get certified somewhere, it even erodes their profit margins. So, but anyway, there's some interesting discussions there, interesting papers to read about about all these items. And boy, that was a rat hole, wasn't it? Spring4Shell still comes around. Oh, they've suborned the Spring CMS logo for this. Mirai, which is a malware, is leveraging vulnerabilities and exploits for Spring4Shell. So what I'm hoping is when they say they're now leveraging these exploits is that the Mirai folks have not found an application or a web server or something that is vulnerable to this and that the industry or the people involved are not aware of it, like finding a lot of, VMware was patched because they said they were vulnerable to this. And that's what made me wonder if Spring4Shell was super targeted to one specific software platform. Or like Log4j where it was a little more widespread, Spring4Shell is not, and it seems like it was almost specifically targeted for specific ones. But they said while Microsoft and Check Point detected many attacks leveraging it, their success were doubtful. There were no reports of large-scale incidents. Exactly, Anhel. Exactly. It's increasing its toolkit, and it's going to do things like banner checks, banner grabs. It's going to look, if it can find, it's like the Metasploit of malware. If it's going to keep those tools in its back pocket, and if it just happens to find the right conditions to use this, it's going to use it. Unlike Metasploit, which is not, Metasploit's not automated. You have to actually do some stuff to make it work. But Mirai, yeah, if it has the ability to hook up into it, then it will. So, so you see here, in this case, threat actors use the remote access to download Mirai to a temp folder and execute it. It's the most common one you see during the day. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. So this was not a bad little write-up about Mirai and where the malware is being stored. If you want to take a look at that, this is Trend Micro. Excuse me, with the requests that are being done. You see it going to CD temp using wget, going to this IP address, and then schmodding 777, which gives it root access, or gives it access to everything because it's just a file called x86, and then it's going out to HTTP looking for the address going to x86. So, oh, Tomcat war.jsp, yeah, password J command. So yeah, then they fetch the scripts for various CPU architectures and execute them with a WSH script. Wow, okay, so for binary, in binaries do wget, web server, smokeplace.dns, binary, DVR helper. So there, this might have some IOCs for you in your in the article here if you haven't gotten them already from your Intel. And it says administrators, just as a precaution, need to upgrade to 5.3.18 or 5.2.20 as soon as possible. And also Spring Boot 2.5.12 or later to shut the door on these attacks. So the mitigation is to patch your systems. I think there was also some other stuff like having to do with caching that had to be done that you could also do as mitigation. I'd have to find the full write-up on that. Okay. Close that. Security nihilism. Okay, so I know we did a lot of news. I'm sorry, we're probably not going to get to the hack the box stuff, but one of the things I wanted to do with the OSCP stuff was to make sure that there were enough people who were interested in doing so. So Queen, I do apologize. You were probably looking for some hack the box stuff today. I completely lost track of time and started talking to people, so I do apologize for that. So security nihilism. This is the reason this one jumped out at me is I'm seeing a little bit of that where I work. There are two specific camps of security people right now, and I want to believe that I want to believe that I am a little more pragmatic than some of the other folks. Okay. And close. We're done for the day. And, the one thing that us security people need to learn is to not be the Department of No. And, we've been talking about, setting, guidelines or, not roadblocks, but not. Oh, cool. I appreciate that, Queen. Thank you so much. Yeah. My thing is, I want to try to be more pragmatic because I have been a little more circumspect about my not my behavior, but how I've been treating certain solutions and certain things in my career. And I look back and I'm like, wow, I was an all or nothing kind of person, and I can't be that way. And I don't know if it's because I've got a lot of experience now in almost 20 years or whatever, but a lot of what I was doing before probably wasn't helpful to the situation. So, but I'm seeing that with some security teams where I work at right now, where it's like, it's all or nothing. They'll stonewall if they're, they want to create as secure a solution as possible, but in doing so, they actually slow down the process of actually getting some security in at all. And it really turns people off to wanting to embrace any facet of security. And so, what I've been trying to do is try to play mediator between the team of No and the product teams or the management teams, to get something in and call security an iterative process. Yeah, you know what? It's not going to be perfect starting out, but we will have something, that fixes a good majority of the big issues. The nice to haves would be great to include that in there. Unfortunately, it's just not right there right now. So some of the things that they're talking about more along the lines of, I would say, IT security instead of like product security. But one of the things that I've never been a fan of are these gotcha style phishings, where if you're a consultant at a security company and they say, oh, we want to do a phishing test, I've done those. They're fun. It's fun to set them up. It's fun to draft the email and see what you can get. But these are not helpful. And I think we need to get better at doing phishing style tests where it's not like, what can we get to trick people into clicking on something so that they have to take more training. It's not helpful, to be deceived. Nobody likes being deceived, we need, and I think that's just a problem of training in this case. But, everybody can be phished if you try, the thing is you have to, I don't know how to say this. Let me see. What is the impetus to try to get people to click on the fish? It seems like it's counterproductive and it doesn't put us in a good light. Scott says, historically, this industry seems to have attracted people with a very binary mind frame, as if their role to be secure as opposed to the spectrum of reduced risk. Exactly. And I'm guilty of that coming from a vulnerability management point of view. My thing, when the metrics that measure your vulnerability management program are predicated on how many patches you can push out, when you yourself don't even know the metrics that you can show, well, we had 500 critical findings yesterday and we only have 497 today. So we've, gotten better by almost 1.5%. It's like, did you get better or did you just, miss the forest for the trees, I did that a lot. It was like, well, or you take the compliance route. It's like PCI says you got to do this, so go ahead and do this. And it's like, maybe instead of pushing people to be compliant, is it we want to be compliant or we want you to fix it so that we don't have to explain the other security controls we're putting into place to the auditor, because we don't want to interact with the auditor any more than we have to. We would just rather them rubber stamp it and go on about our business. I think that was some of our issues way back in the day, especially with like PCI auditors or the SOC auditors who come in. I didn't want to talk to them. So in order to keep them off my back, I projected that onto the people who were trying to get their job done. And by doing so, I only served to cause more issues. So it's rough, and especially when you realize that you're like, wow, I was a D-bag back then. I don't what was I thinking? That kind of thing. That would be one thing I would probably go back in time and tell 15 years ago me to, maybe not be such a D-bag. So, but yeah, so they. The phishing style stuff I don't know how we fix it other than, try to school people on, continue to school people on why they should be careful about clicking on things, but not necessarily just, throw it out there that, sending out an email, trying to trick people because you're threatening them. Hey, if you don't click on this, your insurance is going to get canceled or something like that. And then they click on it and it's like, oh, well, I was more afraid of my insurance being canceled than being phished at this point, or something like that. They're very funny. They're great. Yes, we found 85% of people clicked on the damn link, but if you're threatening them with like their insurance or, hey, if you don't click here to save your, holiday or vacation time, you're going to, lose your vacation time. Well, yeah, of course I'm going to click on that. Are you crazy? And now I have to take an hour-long, phishing, phishing email training bullshit, So it's cute, but I think it's gone the way of the dodo. So positive incentives to combat security fatigue. Rewards, yes. Was that flies with honey versus flies and shit? So a lot of these things, especially with the nihilists, we could do a better job of fostering better relations with folks. I think, you know, if we want people to embrace security, we have to be seen as an organization that is not trying to come down on them. So, I think we talked about this. Masha Sadova, I think we had her on a couple. Oh God, it's about 3-4 years ago. But she was working at, I want to say Salesforce at the time, but she had implemented a gamification program. This was pre-pandemic, of course, way pre-pandemic. And she had found she was more likely to get people to respond and for security incidents when they felt like they were not going to be blamed or put into a position where they were going to, be seen in a negative light. And that goes back to culture. A lot of it is culture, where if we have people who are afraid to come and talk to us or to report issues or incidents, one, it only serves as a detective control because humans are some of the best people to know if something is wrong. But if those same people don't want to come to security because I screwed up, and if I tell security, they're just going to be mean to me, and I could probably lose my job, that's not helpful, and it only causes more damage to be done before some other detective control, like, oh, the logs just automatically went red, or we noticed lateral movement in your environment. If the person who clicked on that link can feel comfortable enough to reach out to security and go, hey, I clicked on this link, is that a bad thing? You may get a couple of minutes there that could save you, a breach notification, or have a better knowledge of that. But yeah, if anybody has any inputs, or I'm completely off base here, please feel free to tell me. Some of us are grizzled veterans here in the chat, I would imagine, who want it to be like that, but sometimes it's a management culture thing. So take the FUD out of security awareness training. I don't manage with a hammer. Thank you, YTT. Exactly. Can I come work for you? Can I come work for you? I don't eat much, and if you just put the newspaper down, I'm house trained. I do use a litter box, so I am litter box trained. Oh yeah, Scott's right. Don't manage with a hammer unless you're a carp. Well, yeah, that's true. That's true, Scott. So I will tell you, the security awareness training, this is an aside, it's not security awareness training, but I got an email from our legal department, because I guess it was time. I'd been working at my job for a year now or so, and they were like, hey, we're taking a different approach to, you know what? I want to read this because it was a great email, and the first thing I thought of was, oh my God, training, annual security training, don't click on the emails, da-di-da-di-da. Come on, man, where's my mouse? Anyway, so if I can get it up here in time, let me see. That's what she said. Let me see, legal. It was legal training. It wasn't security training, but let me see. There was some discussion. Yeah, training. Please review. We're doing training a little differently. We have a selection of topics. We've created a series of short training videos we hope will provide quick and accessible guidance on legal and policy issues that are part of our day-to-day business. We'll remind you every few months with a rotating set of videos to watch. We will continue to schedule and provide in-person trainings for more specialized topics. We hope this is a simpler, more efficient way of distributing this information and helping you retain it. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I'm going to learn about proper contracting policy and NDAs and other things. And it was each video was like 6-7 minutes, very bite sized, very excellent. And there's why yes, YTT, it did, and I did click on it. But I know this person in legal, so I did click on the link. I did highlight the link first, and it did go to a legitimate on hail. Don't judge me. Don't judge me too strongly. But it did go to a legitimate link inside of my company, not outside of the organization. So yeah, training.ru. Yeah. But I think for security awareness training, we need to kind of do along the same lines. It's like instead of the hour long, security awareness training that people have seen the same for like 5 years, if you could cut those up into bite-sized little topics, and it was great when they had the scenario stuff, and it was, Bob's a brand new employee and he just clicked on a link. What should he do? If you could just keep everything bite-sized, keep it very short, let people get back to work, once they're done. My wife has done a lot with regards to how training should work with folks, especially for not older people, but for people who are in, people learn differently. So share and celebrate accomplishments, as when a employee flags a suspicious request. Small reminders from time to time. Yeah, I'd rather watch a couple of 5-minute videos, every couple months than, sitting down for 3 hours trying to find the time in the day to watch the sexual harassment training or the, security, don't click on the security phishing links, kind of thing. I'd love to have a lot of small things where 5 to 10 minutes every time. I think you're right on Hill. I think we need to figure out how we handle training differently. Empower department managers to be trained and then train new hires during their regular training of new hires. Make security training viral. Yeah. The other thing is, lunch and learns have the new hires maybe, if they feel comfortable enough, doing some security training, or hold security training, or talk about something in your organization that happened that is a learning experience. Have a brown bag saying, hey, we had this, if it was a help desk thing, we had a weird help desk ticket that involved, this event or something, lessons learned, if you will. That way everybody can understand it and get it, and make sure that, managers show up so they can understand what their people are doing, and maybe get some time for that. So security doesn't have to be scary. One of the roadblocks is the association with punishment. I've already covered this one. So people tend to ignore and avoid things that are hard or scary. They shrug their shoulders and say, who cares? Nihilistic mindset must be addressed, and it's up to security teams to counteract it. My problem is I see a lot of security teams who also ask that question, who cares? And sometimes that's because they know it's an uphill battle to try to get people to care. I have seen that a lot of times people care. It's just they don't know what to care about. And if we started with one thing, if the security teams picked one thing that we could start with, not to use the Pareto rule, but the 80-20 rule, if we could just say one thing that would reduce the risk, or give them one thing that they know they can care about, I think we would get a lot more out of it, and we would see a lot more fixing in the way of people caring about security. And like I said, punishment, fear, and difficulty. A lot of what we do is security centric. And I'm talking about the OWASP top 10, for instance. It's like, yeah, you got cross-site scripting here. Great. If we don't talk to people sometimes in their language, we have to learn different languages, not just French, Spanish, and German, but maybe sometimes we need to learn to speak developer, or understand what a user story is, and write our security requirements in a user story, instead of saying, look, you need to have AES 256-bit encryption with GCM and using HMAC and all this stuff. If you put it in terms that they can incorporate it into their own workflows, they're not going to, when we come to them asking for something, they'll hopefully be more likely to listen. I mean, there are going to be some people that have, grew up with, the Department of No, or worried about punishment or fear of, oh God, security's coming. How much more work am I going to have to do? And I think that's part of that whole shifting left thing. It's like we need to get involved with them, help them, and understand what their pain points are. So yeah. Oh wow. Okay. So I did talk a lot. I do apologize. I hope it was helpful. I don't. Oh, I need. Wait. Let me refresh my screen here. Let's see if we've got any breaches. Let's see. Junk science is being used against trans kids. Fucking people discriminating. Let me see. There we go. How hackers evade detection. Oh, that might be interesting. Might be removes data. Yeah, we got that one already. Okay, so I haven't seen anything. We may. It's only 5 o'clock, so. But hopefully that'll come up. So let me see. Bypassing detection tools is part of hackers' routine these days. Despite incredible evolution of defensive technologies, attackers often remain undetected for weeks or months, earning the label advanced persistent threat. Yes. Oh, MITRE attack frameworks. That's real good. Yeah. Well, on Hale, as much as I'd like to change that word, I think we've lost it. I think we lost it about 15 years ago. So, that's why we use, unfortunately, we use white hat and black hat, which we probably shouldn't. We definitely shouldn't, using white and black as descriptors. You could use adversaries versus, I've started calling them security assessors, or instead of just consultants, for our good guys, if you will. Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly, on Hale. But yeah, so we heard about this one recently, disabling security tools. I think somebody said they got around one of the endpoint security systems by using PSExec and just turning off that process. On Hale. Oh my goodness. I'm not gonna let that one go on Hale. I do appreciate your comment about, we can label bad guys something else. The auto moderator did flag your comment. I understand the context in which it's occurring, but yes, I do sympathize with you that we could definitely call the bad guys that, but I'm not gonna mention that one. So, but yeah, I mean, we've seen PSExec and those kinds of tools being used to disable endpoint security, getting around those things, obfuscating the malicious code. Of course, JavaScript has been obfuscated for years. Being able to, obfuscate it to where, it can't be read properly, or, it gets around scans. For example, evasion techniques are very, very much living off the land, or lol bins. Yep, exactly. Local binaries. I think I saw once where somebody was using cabarchive.exe, which I believe cabarchive.exe. That's going to error out, isn't it? No. Okay. There was a tool, makecab.exe, that's what it was, for exfiltration, since it's an exe that exists on Windows as a way to create cab files, which are archive files. You can, do all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I mean, disabling security tools, UAC command, Windows security logs. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a ton of ways, and they do attack does a fairly decent, and the defend framework also is kind of the anti-attack. It kind of talks about the defense portion of the attack, where it's like, you can cover the attack framework with defend. There's a number of different ways you can get around that, but let me add this to chat. There we go. I hear you. My kids are yowling at me. So, all right. Well, so this weekend I do want to do some more OSCP stuff. I'm going to go and poke through Keyoptrix number 2, which is the second in the series. I had a real issue because one of the walkthroughs was like, oh yeah, you can do this to enumerate the Java, or not Java, the Samba that's on the box. The problem is the upgraded versions of the Samba tools actually turns off the flagging. And I looked through, there was a script you could use called smbvar.sh, but I could not. Okay. That is not what I wanted. smbvar. There we go. I tried using this script, but I could not get it to launch. It would not, and I don't know if it was because Keyoptrix 1, it was not available, but I could not get this script to run on there to enumerate. And the idea was the version of Samba that was on Keyoptrix 1, I believe, is also vulnerable to a privilege escalation or something that allows you to get root on it. And the idea was I was going to go back through Keyoptrix 1 and find another way to get root instead of just the way that I originally had used. If anybody has any better way of enumerating Samba, I tried enum for Linux. I tried nbtstat. I tried this script. I tried a number of things that did not work for me. And the only real way to do it is to downgrade to an older version of the Samba tools to be able to do these things. So. If you haven't joined our Discord yet and are interested, Bang Discord will give you an invite. And I'd love to get your input if you've got another way of doing it. I may actually go in and try just typing in the commands and doing it that way, because the idea is the packets in using TCP dump, like the first 8 packets or so, will actually give you the version of Samba that's running on the box, which is the idea that you're supposed to do. But then you're supposed to be able to use SMB client to poke around inside the system. It may be that I'll just have to poke around using TCP dump manually and figure out what was done wrong on this, because there's a lot. Let's see, you've got TCP dump. Using tap source, the remote host, so that'd be the host, the VM host, using a remote port, which would be 139 in this case when we did the nmap check. There's a couple of switches here that I'd have to go research and look at, but the output goes to dev null. So I'd probably just try to run the command without all the dev null and the greps and the TRs and the TDs and all that, because what it's doing is it's scraping out the text from the packets themselves, looking for the specific issues. And thenmpacket and RPC, if 139 is open, 137 was not, if memory serves, in the 111, 139, 80, 443, and I want to say 1024, but I'm not sure why that was. What was the other one? There was 80, 443, 1024. There was like 6 ports that were open. I can only remember one of them now. Okay, cool. Thank you, Angel. ASCII and 10 packets. Okay, so it's collecting the first 10 packets, I believe, of the handshake for that. So, okay, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I was just going to go and man TCP dump and poke around on it. So, I will probably set up some time tomorrow afternoon to go through Keyoptrix 1.1. I'll probably try to root it myself before then to make sure that I don't look like an idiot when I'm doing the demo gods thing. Save it. Yeah, I'm not an idiot. I just play one on TV. But yeah, so we'll poke around on some of these things. But hope everyone has a good weekend. Enjoy your 48-ish hours off. Turn off your work computer and try to remove any email or Slack for work off of your mobile phones. I have seen far too many people in the last week and a half or so at my workplace, like slacking and emailing on Saturdays and Sundays. And I'm like, look, y'all need to get the fuck out of work. Okay. So turn it off, step away. Cool. All right. Well, hope y'all have a great weekend. If you can come on tomorrow, that would be great. The 12th at 3:00 Pacific. Black Girls Hack, Tanisha and team are going to be using. Oh, you too, Angel. I hope you have a great weekend too. Tanisha and team from Black Girls Hack are going to be doing something with us on our stream here about setting up your home lab for testing and stuff. So it's kind of falls in line with some of the OSCP stuff we're doing. But if you have not set up a lab before, it might be some good discussion. I don't know how much I will have to input, but we will have a Twitch stream for that, and we'll have some people on Zoom who are going to be chatting and talking about home labs. I have a couple of refurbished boxes. I also have I have an Intel NUC that it's doing nothing right now except not losing its battery. And I actually bought a second box for streaming that I have yet to use because my laptop apparently is good enough to handle it. But I mean, refurbished boxes on Amazon are only a couple of $100, but they're valuable for doing VMs or containers or what have you. But there's a number of different ways you can go with that. So have a great weekend. Hope you can join us on the 12th or join us this weekend for discussion. I may actually put this out as a podcast this weekend. I don't know. We'll see. So y'all take care, and we'll talk soon.